On Tech News Today, wearable computing. Is it the future of mobile computing, or is it a dead end for geeks who want to be cyborgs? We're going to find out. We have four of the biggest experts in the industry to tell you all about it. It's all coming up next.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, recorded Monday, December 15th, 2014. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace recently launched the latest version of their platform, Squarespace 7, which has a completely redesigned interface, integrations with Getty Images and Google Apps, new templates, and an incredible feature called Cover Pages. Try the new Squarespace at squarespace.com and enter the offer code TNT at checkout to get 10% off. And by Personal Capital. With Personal Capital, you'll have many more happy holidays as you grow and protect your wealth with this award-winning financial app. Best of all, it's free. To sign up, go to personalcapital.com/TNT. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. Welcome to the show. I'm Mike Elgan, and with me, of course, is Jason Cleanthes. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing pretty good, Mike. How you doing?
Happy holidays to you. It's kind of the holidays. We recorded this last week. And we're glad you're here. For the holidays, we're taking an in-depth look at 5 of the biggest and most controversial stories of the year. Today, wearable computing. Wearable computing is either the next big thing or it's a dead-end category exclusively for geeks with disposable incomes who dream of becoming cyborgs. We've got a few of those on the show today. And will the category take off? And if so, will it be smartwatches, smart glasses, or something else? And who will dominate the industry? Existing giants like Apple, Google, Samsung, or Microsoft, or will startups emerge to challenge their dominance? We've got an amazing panel to talk about all this, starting with Bill Fernandez. Welcome to you, Bill Fernandez.
Greetings. Thank you for having me on today.
So glad you're here. Now, Bill is a user interface designer and expert. He was the first full-time employee at Apple. He worked on the Mac, QuickTime, and HyperCard, and this is the man who introduced Steve Jobs to Steve Wozniak, and if it wasn't for him, we'd all be using MS-DOS right now. So we really appreciate that. You have the world's eternal gratitude. And we also have with us Andy Ihnatko, tech journalist for the Chicago Sun-Times, host of MacBreak Weekly, and internationally beloved industry figure. Welcome to you, Andy Ihnatko.
Thanks for having me on.
So glad you're here, and we've already seen the wearable devices pop up, and we're going to keep them coming. We also have Cecilia Abadie, who is the CTO of Apex Labs. This is a brand new job for her. I'm sorry, you're the director of Apex Lab. Is that correct?
One of the directors, yes.
And what is Apex Labs exactly?
Apex Labs dedicates to create a heads-up display software for the enterprise, and it's multi-platform, so it's tackling Google Glass, Epson Moverio, etc.
And of course, Cecilia is best known as the first person ever to get a ticket for wearing Google Glass. So she is a pioneer, to be sure. And we also have Matt Hamblen, senior editor for Computer World, who covers wearable computing obsessively. Thank you so much for joining us, Matt.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Now, we have some wearable device. All of you are into wearable devices. So let's go around the horn very quickly. Bill, what wearable devices, if any, do you wear with any sort of frequency?
Well, I would say that we have for many years, for generations, had wearable technology. The optical glasses that I'm wearing now is a wearable technology. Bluetooth headsets, the Bluetooth headphones, are wearable technology. It's not the wearable technology you usually think of. You know, these days we think of things that go on your wrist or Google Glass. But we've had wearable technology for a long time.
And, okay, how about Andy Ihnatko? What do you wear besides Google Glass?
I am one of these fools who actually wears Google Glass out in public, but only like when I'm traveling, when I'm in a very, very public space, not day to day. But I have to say that my Moto 360 has not been off my wrist since I got it. Well, excuse me, when I bathe and shower and sleep, okay. And when it's charging, yes. But within normal parameters of daylight usage, yes. It's not been on off my wrist since September when I started testing it out.
And do you have a conundrum coming when the Apple Watch comes? What are you going to do?
Don't know, because as we even started to talk about now, it's a problem where you're getting platform lock-in, where if you have an Android Wear watch, then you're pretty much limited to just using Android phones. If you're getting an Apple Watch, you're limited to iOS devices. So I wish there were more crossover potential. So it really is a vote not just for a watch, but for the entire platform of the rest of your office almost.
The good news is you have another pocket and another wrist, so you may not have to choose. Okay, so Cecilia, what do you wear besides Google Glass?
I've been wearing lately this Samsung Gear S, which has its own 3G connection, so I can go out in the street and talk on the phone like from here and things like that. Then I'm wearing Google Glass almost every day when I go out in the street. And I also wear these, this is my necklace, so I don't use jewelry, but I have all these things, and I use these for headsets, wireless.
That's fantastic. And okay, so Matt Hamblen, what do you wear on a regular basis?
Well, we got this Gear Fit on, and I was out today hiking, and so that's my most common one. I've got the Moto 360. Don't have it on today.
All right. Okay. So, and just for full disclosure, I wear Google Glass occasionally, less than I used to. I lived in Italy for a while, and I pretty much wore it every day. And I took some amazing pictures and got some really interesting use out of it, including translation, stuff like that. Nowadays, I mostly use it when I'm running late for work, and I want to make sure I don't miss any communication coming right before the show. I use it to take pictures and do some other stuff. I also have a Moto 360 and an LG Guatch, as Jason Howell likes to call it. And I'm probably intending to get an Apple Watch when that comes around. So, you know, pretty much the standard stuff. I right now use my smartphone for fitness stuff and for pedometer and all that kind of stuff. But we'll see if something comes along and thrills me one way or the other. All right, well, let's take a break because I want to tell you about Squarespace, one of our sponsors today. You know, one of the greatest things about Squarespace is how mobile ready it is. If you want to manage your site, your blog on the go, there are so many apps that they offer. They, in fact, have 4 apps that they offer from Squarespace. The Portfolio, Note, Metric, and Blog mobile apps are really on-the-go extensions of your website, so you can monitor and make changes and sort of respond to the visitors to your site on the go. You're not chained to a desk with Squarespace. And, of course, you know, it's a mobile world these days, and so many, probably more than half of the people who visit your website are going to be visiting it from a smartphone or a tablet. And that's why Squarespace is so great for those mobile users, because it's going to redesign your site on the fly so that it looks perfect on a mobile device. And again, you can't, you know, it's just so important for you to look great on a smartphone or a tablet. So start a free 2-week trial with no credit card required and start building your website. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code TNT to get 10% off and to show your support for Tech News Today. And to begin using Squarespace 7, existing customers can go to the Settings tab to activate all the new features, and I highly recommend that you do so. We thank Squarespace for their support of Tech News Today, and Squarespace, start here, go anywhere. So, Bill, let's start with a very fundamental question. These devices have to start somewhere, and of course, companies have been working on them for a very, very long time. What are some of the interface challenges with smartwatches and smart glasses that these companies are grappling with?
Well, I think that there are 3 main ones. One is battery life, another is screen size, and another is computing power. To get all of those 3 in such a small package is very difficult.
And Cecilia, developing for these kinds of platforms, do you find that there are some that are really nailing the tools for developing? For example, is Android Wear something that you find is extremely easy to use, or is there some other company that's doing a great job with that?
Yeah, both Android Wear and Google Glass GDK are very simple to pick up for any Android developer. So they have value because they can appeal to a broad community of developers. So I think they have a hand there, definitely.
Cecilia, I personally find the Google Glass user interface really great. Because it's linear. There's like the future and there's the past, and you sort of swipe into the past as you go in one direction, and it's really it's not a perfect user interface, but as an organizing principle, it's very intuitive and very I find it very great to use. And I assumed before Android Wear came out that the Google platform for smartwatches would work just like that. and it doesn't. Do you think that this is that this basic functionality of having a time-based organization for data is something that will be used on other mobile devices, or is it just going to be, or wearable devices, or is it just Google Glass that's going to embrace that sort of hardcore time-based functionality?
Underwear has a similar thing, but I feel like underwear is only kind of targeting notifications. So I feel like it's bombarding me with notifications, and I really didn't like that. Kind of Apple and Google kind of switch places in this time. And Apple has the watch that has a very liberal, free interface, and underwear has a too controlling interface where you can do a lot there. So I personally am not a big fan of underwear at the time yet.
And you've looked at, it sounds like you've looked at the Apple Watch SDK, and do you have any other surprises in there for you? Were you surprised by?
I have not looked into the SDK though.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
yeah, I have not looked into the SDK. I'm looking into what they showed as far as GUI, and I can see that you can launch very easily. The core is you launch your own applications, where in Android Wear that's kind of hidden and difficult to do. Yeah, exactly that screen, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of wacky screen. A lot of people are complaining about it already. I think it's okay with the little tiny icons all over the place. But it is really, they've really made some very, very interesting design decisions. Since we're talking about the Apple Watch, why don't we just launch in and talk about that some more? One of the things that's interesting about this, Bill, is the fact that, I'm sorry, I'm going to get to Bill in just a sec. I want to go to you, Matt. There are pundits out there who are predicting all kinds of things for the Apple Watch, just all over the map in terms of the broad acceptance, and also the pricing that we're hearing rumors about is all over the map. We're hearing that we know what the price of the lower end ones are going to be. The cheapest one, I think, what is it, $359 or $49, something like that, and then $500 for the mid-range one, and then we're hearing that the gold one may be $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. So I'm curious, Matt, what your take is on the various predictions that have been made in terms of how many they'll sell. Will they in the first year sell 3 million or 30 million? What do you think?
I'd say somewhere in between. No, it's going to go well, and I think it's just because of the way they've done with the smartphone, with the iPhone. I think that's their expertise. And I think there was a survey that we reported on that showed that it was, as soon as the watch was announced, there was a lot more interest. It was like 8,000 people were interviewed for this survey in 12 different countries. So I think, there was a lot more interest in smartwatches at that point. So that was a good indication to me. But I mean, just having been around since the first iPhones, and I wasn't really reporting on the iPod, but you just have to believe that that's going to have a big impact.
Andy Ihnatko, do you like the Apple Watch in terms of the design? I know you've played with the sort of canned video version of it at the rollout. Does the appearance of it strike you as something that's ready for prime time in the mass market? Did the apparent functionality of it sound like something that everybody's going to love, or does it feel to you like it's going to be kind of a niche product for the hardcore fanboys and the gadget geeks and maybe a few jewelry fans?
Well, as a physical object, it's certainly one of the prettier wearables that's out there, possibly because it's probably the smallest one that has a really nice color screen and a full sort of user interface. It really doesn't attract a lot of attention on your wrist if you're wearing the smaller one, especially if you've got that rubber sport band on it. And I think that the $350 cheapest one is certainly going to be the most popular one. The only thing that worries me about it is that it's just got so many controls on it, where you've got a stem that is a roller interface and plus a clicky button. You've got a second clicky button underneath that. You've got a touch screen that also reacts to levels of pressure. And I'm curious to know how well developers are going to manage all of those inputs. We've had the opportunity now to spend a year and a half starting with the Pebble smartwatch, which maybe is probably the first thing we could really call a smartwatch that we've put in the hands of users. And all of them are really, really simple in terms of the amount of controls that they have. So that could be a problem. I'm also, in the first demonstration, I was very, very worried that they're showing off features like, hey, and now let's take a look at every single picture you've ever taken with your phone, and we're going to scroll through it on this watch and then select the one picture that we want to actually look at. And I'm wondering, well, but if I've got the phone in my pocket, why would I fuss around with this little stem when I can use a much better interface than that? The difficulty in guessing about what's going to be working with the Apple Watch is that it really is just guesswork at this point. I think it's still a very early in development product. I think that it's not going to be until January or February that Apple's going to be able to really lay out the full landscape of what this watch is going to do and what they expect people to, developers to be able to do with it. Looks great so far, but it's still just conjecture at this point.
So, Bill, I have a theory about the Apple Watch, which is that it's in a category by itself so far because Apple seems to have been sort of taking an entirely different approach to the user interface. What they're doing is that they're combining haptics, what they're calling their Haptics engine, with the sort of audio cues with the controls, so that everything has a kind of multimedia dimension to it. So when you turn the little roller on the side, you feel that the Haptics engine makes you feel that in a very specific way. When when an alert comes in, you hear the Haptic engine sort of makes you feel it in a certain way. You can, of course, share your heartbeat and tap on it, and when somebody's tapping on it, it kind of feels like somebody's actually tapping on your wrist. And it sounds to me like this is really the future of this kind of wearable, where the user interface is going to actually kind of jack into your nervous system and create this. I mean, I know that I'm sure that most of you, if not all of you, have had this sort of phantom wearable syndrome thing where, like, I've gone up and tried to like do this with, and I realized, wait a minute, I'm not wearing Google Glass, or or sometimes you have the phantom vibration syndrome for your phone, where you feel your phone vibrate and then you realize you don't have it. It's just your body expects there to be a phone vibrating at some point, and so they've really tapped into that sort of thing. Bill, what do you think of that? Do you think that that is really the future of wearables? Do you agree with my theory, or is this just bells and whistles that's going to be used by Apple to kind of just dazzle the potential buyers?
Haptics is a good thing, and it is part of the future as people develop ways to do it well. Before these high-tech devices, everything we picked up that was tangible, we could feel, and how it feels, what its heft is, how hard it is to move, its weight, its texture, all put us in more control of the objects we manipulated. When we went to a screen where you could only see things and maybe click them with a mouse, we lost a lot of that. And you remember the early user interfaces tried to give you three-dimensional things that would look like they were pushing in to try to simulate that. And now as we go to a touch screen where you can't really feel anything and everything is so tiny, we need to try to introduce or bring back other ways of interacting with them. And having a tactile feel of things is one very powerful way that you can give people interaction with the device. Also having sounds that the device makes to give you cues as to what it's doing and how it's reacting is another powerful way to make something with a pretty impoverished channel between you and the device, a sensory channel between you and the device, are powerful ways to open up those channels and give you more interaction and control.
Cecilia, let's talk about Google Glass. Now, you wear Google Glass pretty much everywhere, and besides your ticket that you got, you got it. So, if you're not familiar with the story, Cecilia was ticketed for wearing glass, and she went to court and beat it in court because they couldn't. I guess Cecilia, they couldn't prove that it was actually turned on while you were driving?
They would have to prove that you're actually using it actively, and also they had to prove that you're using it for something that is not navigation or relative to the driving, because in that case, there's an exception in the law. So it was pretty hard for them to get that.
Okay. Well, congratulations on that, belatedly. Now, you wear it all the time. So have you been harassed or have you been confronted by people who object to you wearing it in any way? And if so, can you tell us about that?
One time in San Francisco, I have someone being very insistent that I was violating his privacy, and it was a little irrational, like he was not listening to my arguments and stuff, and I felt a little unsafe for a few seconds. until he left. But most of the time, what I find out there until today is like people like wowing and people want to try it. People are very impressed. Like these kind of devices capture the imagination of the people. We saw it in science fiction. It really captures that kind of imagination that we have in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it is, for some reason, it's always San Francisco where these things happen.
It is San Francisco.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
How about you, Andy, out on the East Coast? Any problems, or is the East Coast a little bit more welcoming?
Nothing but positive feedback. As a matter of fact, I have an actual Flickr photo album of pictures of me taken by people who wanted to try Google Glass, because taking a picture is the easiest thing to show someone how to do. I only had one, shall we say, philosophical discussion with somebody on the street in Philadelphia, but even that was a philosophical discussion. And it really just comes down to people not understanding like what this thing actually is, that it's not capturing data 24/7. I explained to them, look, the battery is like this tiny thing in the back here that if I were to try to be capturing video all the time, it would be dead after 6 minutes. And then they start to relax and they realize that, well, there has to be an explicit gesture in order for me to take pictures. Most people are worried about that sort of stuff, but after you talk to them for about half a minute about it, they realize that they're really in much more danger on the subway from somebody who is apparently like listening to music, but seems to be spending a lot of time clicking the volume control as they're moving the phone around than they are from someone who's wearing something as explicit as this.
There's a lot of anxiety about men wearing them in the men's room, but I like to tell people when I have the same philosophical conversations that the position of your head in order to take pictures of Google Glass would be socially unacceptable with or without glass.
Yeah. But also, anybody who's wearing glass or a GoPro camera or anything like that, we do have a responsibility that if we're in a situation where people are going to be uncomfortable with the camera, to take this off and put it away. Because I would never wear this, like if I'm having dinner with somebody, I would never wear it like this. If I enter a men's room, of course I'm putting this away. Because also, it's not impossible to be like adjusting the thing. There's a button for the shutter button. You don't want to accidentally take a picture that's then going to show up like when you're looking for what address do I want to go to? Picture of the men's room I didn't mean to take.
The horror. Let's take a break because I want to tell you about Personal Capital. New Year's is coming and you want to make a resolution. Why not get your financial house in order with Personal Capital? Personal Capital will let you bring together all of your financial information from all your different accounts that are scattered all over the internet. You know they are. And it brings them together into one place so you can really see what's happening with your money. Graphs and charts that will give you an intuitive sense of what's happening. You can find and eliminate high mutual fund and 401k fees and other hidden brokerage fees that may be costing you years of your retirement. You can get tailored advice on optimizing your investments. It's a smart way to grow your money. It's a smart way to invest. It's a smart way to save. It's a smart way to do all of your financial management. You really want to take advantage of Personal Capital. To set up your free account, go to personalcapital.com/TNT. And remember that Personal Capital is free, and it's a smart way to grow your money. And we thank Personal Capital for their support of Tech News Today. All right, so we talked about, we don't have enough time to really go into the full scope of wearable computing, but I would like to point out that there are so many players in this market for so many different devices, and so we talked about Google's Android Wear, we talked about the Apple Watch, we talked about Google Glass, and so on. But there are all kinds of startups and sort of projects. I mean, I'll just go through a few of them and then quit when I want to give up here. So that Acer is working on a smart watch. Agent, Androidly, Apple, Afscons. We're still in the A's. Cuckoo, Dell, Emopulse, Flip. Foxconn is even working on their own wearable device. These are all smartwatches. Geek. GooPhone, of course. There's a company called Hot. There's Hiatus. I don't know if you've seen that one. The iWatch has been around for a while. Intel is getting very aggressive into wearables on both the chip level and also they have their own high-fashion, highfalutin jewelry type of watch. There's InWatch, Crayo's, LG, Martian, MetaWatch. Microsoft, of course, has their watch, and I think they're going to probably come out with a more powerful one, not just a fitness band. Neptune, Nissan. I mean, it just goes on and on. There's so many devices in the glass area. I'm sorry, those were the, And in the glass area, there's so many companies that are working on Google Glass that it's just Google Glass type devices that is just really kind of ridiculous. And they span the range from little things that blink red when you have a notification all the way to super high def 4K type displays that are, heads up displays. Are any of you? We'll start with you, Bill. Are any of you excited about a sort of random startup type of device that is coming and isn't on the market yet? What do you think, Bill?
I don't have my eye on any one in particular, but I know that as technology pushes forward, entrepreneurs use it to do new and interesting things. Like when you can put all this technology in a ring, we'll be talking about rings, not watches. When you can embed this technology into people so that you can hear or have GPS or have voice response built into your body, that will be exciting and new in different ways. And those things are all coming.
How about you, Andy? What are you excited about besides the big giant companies?
I'm more excited about stuff that you can buy on Adafruit, where they have their own like wearable computing platform that they look like a little tiny little button, but it has an embedded controller and it can talk to other things like signaling lights or sensors, and the ability to not just simply go by whatever Google or Apple lets you do in the development kit of this, but simply deciding that I really just want the ability to have a little light come on the inside the cuff of my jacket, subtly cueing me that I'm near a Wi-Fi access point, or subtly cueing me that there is something that my sensor has picked up that it just wants to alert me to. Something that is only designers often talk about how you have to focus on the features that are going to affect 90% of the users out there, and the other 10% are an edge case. I'm most fascinated by people creating features for the 1/10 of 1%, the ultimate tailor-made device, which is probably appropriate for clothing-based technology.
Yeah, definitely. And Cecilia, how about you? What are you excited about?
I think it's a variety of things. Like any part of the body is not going to be accepted from wearables, but for the most part, like you were saying before, it's going to be for verticals. It's going to be very specific for like a helmet for industry and enterprise, or it's going to be something for high-end sports. So I think the main ones are the ones we already know, the watch and the heads-up display. The little things we'll see come up are going to be more specific for verticals.
And Matt Hamblen, what do you think? What are you excited about? What have you read or written about that you think is going to be have a big impact?
Well, for sure, I think surgeons are already using Google Glass, and we've written about that. And I think the vertical industries will probably quickly adapt to those kinds of less expensive, maybe there'll be wearables that are even higher, more expensive than Google Glass. I think I'm interested in payment systems over wearables that eliminate the need for pulling out your smartphone. And I don't think that's going to come from a small company. But all the applications are what really drives the interest, I think. By the way, I just looked at CES's website, and there are 542 companies that say they're showing off wearables.
Wow, that is incredible.
Wow.
That's a great number. And I'm not surprised at all. Of course, many of those will never see the light of day.
That's right.
But it's still an indication of what the interest is in the industry. Well, not enough time. We've got to close this thing off. Bill Fernandez is at billfernandez.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Bill Fernandez. Thank you so much for joining us on Tech News Today.
My pleasure.
All right. And we also have Andy Ihnatko at Ihnatko.com. That's spelled Ihnatko.com. And you can follow him on Twitter at Ihnatko. Thanks for joining us, Andy. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
All right. And Cecilia Abadie is at Evolutionization. Is that still correct? Evolutionation. Yeah.
Yes.
.com. And you can follow her on Twitter at @CAbadie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. And Matt Hamblen is at computerworld.com. And you can follow him on Twitter at Matt Hamblen. Thanks for joining us, Matt Hamblen.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Well, you can subscribe to Tech News Today on Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, Feedly, Yahoo, RSS, any number of options. You can choose your favorite at twit.tv/TNT. You can follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV. And please send us your thoughts and opinions. Send email to tnt@twit.tv or leave voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. And don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight, every weeknight right here on the Twit Network. My name's Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We see you next time.